Cincinnati was my sound editor on it, and there were only a couple of little places that he was able to smooth it out. That's exactly the way it was originally cut. That scene never changed.
Geez, everybody thought it must have been so hard to do.
No, that was really, what was it?
That's two brilliant performances.
It's a very important scene in the picture, and it was what I call the famous scene 21, which I never changed.
So how long did that take you to do, the first assembly? Speaking of first assembly, and I hope I'm wrong about this, and I probably am.
I don't use the word assembly.
Okay, then what? How do you normally put together scenes?
Well, the reason I don't use the word assembly means that you're really taking a bunch of different areas, angles and things, and showing what there is in the scene. But
you basically follow the script on the first pass.
Maybe yes and maybe no. That's depends on what the performances are and how much improvising there is.
Was there any improvising in that scene?
Pardon?
Was there improvising in that scene?
Sure was. When you're just making this up and you're wrong. That was Jack. That wasn't Elaine May who wrote that scene. That was Jack. No, it's.
So when you first put together a scene,
when I first put together a scene, I try to. It may be long, but it has to play as well as it can possibly play in whatever length it is. In other words, you can't. I don't believe in showing assemblies because they don't mean anything. Nobody can see how it works, and Warren didn't have time to look at the stuff anyway. He was busy directing and writing, and a good part of the time after I came back from England, I was in New York and he was still overseas. So I just kind of followed my own nose.
You always follow your own nose?
Well, I don't know who else's nose I follow.
But you trust yourself from the beginning, haven't you?
No, it isn't that I trust myself. I'm very indecisive very often. And,
Really?
No, choices are difficult. It's very difficult for me sometimes to have a confidence to go ahead and do it. But ultimately, the only way I can do it is to follow my gut, because you get involved with the characters, you get involved with the dialogue and the characters and the scene, and it kind of dictates to you, at least to me, where it should go and how it should go.
You read the script, obviously, before the movie starts, and once the movie starts...
I read the script and I memorize all the dailies. That's the most important thing I do.
You memorize all the dailies?
I memorize all the dailies. I had a little...
So you know where everything is all the time?
Every single piece. I will take forever learning the footage.
Wow.
I had my own little projector, which was only one reel at a time. Drove one of my assistants crazy, Stevie Rudder. But Richie Marks loved it because he was the son of a projectionist. He could flip them very quickly. But then, of course, we got chems. It was slightly different. You always had that film. And then eventually, I would make, since I had started in stock, commercial editing, Film Opticals was part of the same company as Film Graphics, for which I worked. So I knew how to lay out my own opticals because we were the shoemaker's children. We always had, they never had time to do our stuff. We had to do our own. And knowing that, I've lost my train of thought. What was I thinking? You were just asking me.
Opticals.
Oh, opticals. Knowing that, I still lost my train of thought.
Memorizing dailies. You're memorizing dailies.
Oh, the different versions, yeah.
I lost my train of listening.
What happened was that I would go into the last bath at night with my black and white work print, and go into the last bath at Film Opticals at night and make what I call the quick and dirty print, which was a black and white off my black and white work print. And
you would be doing that yourself?
No, I wouldn't. I would get Louis.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Louis Verona, Louis. I would get them to go in. I mean, I didn't physically operate the equipment at Film Opticals. But in the last
I'm actually
bath,
surprised.
but in the last bath at night before they changed the chemicals and made them clean for the next day, it was pretty dirty, you know, so I would just take advantage of that. And they were always very, very generous in helping me. And I would just make a copy of it so that I would have a perpetual copy. Eventually, we got to the point where we had VCRs, I guess, VHSs, whatever they were. We did, yeah. And
This is the early 1980s.
this was early on. I mean, I was doing this for a long time. Not, for instance, on Odds Against Tomorrow, but on, I don't think even on Hustler. But certainly by the time I got to Reds, I had no problem copying material so that I would be able to cut any version I wanted and have it, you know. So if either Arthur or Warren or somebody came up with something, but Warren was away most of the time, and he didn't really want to see it till I got it in one piece. He looked at one or two sequences in the beginning, and he said, "You just continue on your own." He wanted to see what I came up with.
So nobody stood behind your shoulder for that particular movie?
No, nobody ever stood behind my shoulders. It was moviola, you know. When you work on moviola,
Too much standing, right?
well, I just never, when I was sitting in the Met, who was notorious for telling people where to cut, he never stood over my shoulder, because with moviolas, it didn't quite work that way. It was kind of, I mean, if somebody stood over your shoulder and say, cut here and here, you might as well have an assistant. Why do you need an editor?
So the first time you would show a scene to the director, was this?
As far as I'm concerned, well, it may be the wrong direction. It may even be, I mean, the scene may go in the wrong direction, or it might even be ridiculously long, but it has to play. And as long as it plays, you know, and you can watch it in an interesting way and become interested in the scene, then you're not in any trouble. That's really what, as far as I'm concerned, what it's about. It's not a matter of putting a bunch of cuts together and seeing how fancy you can be. People can get in a lot of trouble that way. And I think that one of the things that's happened with the music videos and all is that it's hurt people who want to edit in more serious forms because they think they have to flash it up and jazz it up, and that's not what it's about. The question is, people always ask me, or you ask me even, why did I tell people to go study theater? Because they have to learn where the scene is. What's the scene about? And how's it going to play? And what are the actors doing? And how, you know, it's not about making fancy cuts. I call that dessert. Like chases and things, I love those. Because you can do them fast, you can do them silent, and then track them. And
were there any particular problems in the scenes that we saw that you had to solve, if you recall?
Problems that I had to solve, I don't think so.
I mean, you've been so lucky to work with so many good directors that will give you all the footage you hopefully need to put together a great
Warren was
sequence.
very good because he had learned from the best directors. He was very careful.
He's a very
He worked
underrated
his
director.
way through, you know, George Stevens. He had wanted to work with every good director he could, and he learned. He's, as you no doubt know, was an extremely bright man. He learned everything from everybody, and then of course he did it completely on his own from then on.
Well, obviously you worked with a lot of really bright people.
Yes, I have. I've been very lucky.
Let's move on to the next clip. Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, Bonnie and Clyde, that one Warren produced.
Bonnie and Clyde, when it first came out, it didn't do very well. As a matter of fact, it was a flop.
Well, it may have been I don't know what you mean by a
It
flop.
was, it played in a few drive-in movies in Texas.
it
The
did more
critics,
than that.
well, and the critics didn't like it
Critics didn't like it
until all of a sudden the Lester Flats and Earl Scruggs theme song hit #1, And the fashion,
You know more about how it got.
the fashion that the dresses that Faye Dunaway wore all of a sudden became this global phenomenon. And then before you know it, critics started changing their mind about Bonnie and Clyde. People started going to the theater. Warner Brothers did not like it at all. They started pushing it again, and it got 10 Academy Award nominations, and the rest is history. And Roger Ebert, by the way, was the only critic in America, it seemed like, at that time, that liked Bonnie and Clyde and called it the first modern American masterpiece.
Well, actually, it was Joe Morgenstern who switched his.
Right, the Newsweek guy. He switched his critique.
He switched his critique, he asked if he could see it again. And I always ran every screening for a critic. I always sat in the back and ran. They didn't know me in those days, so it didn't matter. I always ran the critic screenings because I always wanted to know if something happened, what happened, so I could, tell Warren or whomever I was working, what had happened.
Now, everybody talks about Bonnie and Clyde as bringing the French New Wave of cinema to America. It was one of the first movies to do that, and of course, Dede Allen editing it brought the New Wave, French New Wave
Well,
to
it was Arthur
America.
Penn.
Well, okay, but
let's be
since
real.
you edited, did Arthur and Warren talk to you about Godard and Truffaut and say we kind of want this to look like that?
No, they didn't say that because they wouldn't either of them have said that.
So you still looked at the scene, what's in the scene, what's it about, and still cut it to Dede Allen?
Yeah, I cut it, and then Arthur kept cutting it down, and he'd say, go faster, faster, faster. And that's how I finally said, okay, I'll be known as the worst editor in the United States of America, but I'll be happy to do it because they don't give me Academy Award nominations anyway, and, which is true, they did.
That's because you were in New York.
And I was in New York, Ausländer, as they
Yes,
used to call it.
exactly.
In any case, no, Arthur pushed for that and the style, as did Warren, of
Did
course.
you fight him at all?
No way, I
No
loved
way.
it,
Oh, did you?
of course.
And so that movie was, you were breaking the rules. What were the rules that you were breaking? I mean, there was some mismatching and that sort of thing, but as a casual moviegoer.
Oh, I'm not talking about mismatches, I don't pay any attention to those unless it's, you watch people's eyes. When you're looking at a scene and you change to another scene, the most important thing are the eyes. If you mismatch the eyes, which means you mismatch the mood or intent or the acting moment of the scene, that's a real mismatch. Because you change the meaning of the scene if you do that.
You're always known as the actor's editor. You really love actors,
So
don't
I
you?
love actors, they're wonderful.
So did Warren Beatty ever hit on you in the editing room?
No, he was too smart, I was already with Steve.
Good to see
We
you.
would have been married 60 years next Christmas Day. There's an old, very dirty expression called "you don't shit where you eat." At least maybe that you don't have that in this generation.
Ready to do now. So that scene dessert to you, the chase scene?
Oh yeah, I love the chases. I love the scene where they first shoot and come out and put the money on the lawn. I love that scene. I love all those scenes that, that have character interaction based on extreme pressure.
The first time you showed that scene to Arthur Penn, how different was that scene than the scene that we saw up here?
Well, you didn't see that scene, but, well, it all goes a lot faster.
Just
in
faster,
terms
faster,
of,
more cut,
Arthur
more.
never told me where to cut. He would just, if something was going wrong with a character, we would discuss it. I did a lot of pictures with Arthur, so we had numbers of pictures that we worked on, all different kinds, because Arthur never did the same thing twice.
I mean, some could say Estelle Parsons got the Academy Award for that
did. That was
particular
her
scene,
first-
just
that
for
was-
that wonderful screaming and running.
Well, I don't know what she got it for, but that was her first motion picture, and she was remarkable.
Oh, that was her first one? Oh my gosh.
That was her first.
Well,
And did another one with her, I can't remember right now, but I did another one with her right on top of that. A wonderful actress.
Oh, well, she was wonderful in this one. Let's move on to the next scene. And I believe this one is Little Big Man.
Oh, Little Big Man.
Was that dessert?
Pardon?
Was that dessert? That scene?
No, that wasn't dessert.
Yeah.
The most heartbreaking scene I ever cut. And the reason it went silent was that I couldn't,
That was your idea to go silent?
no, it was just that I had been putting sound to it it took me a little while to cut the scene, and I had been putting some sound to it, and as a result, I got to the point where when that scene took place, I couldn't put sound on it anymore. It just broke my arm.
Really
And I
works?
left it that way. Arthur liked it, and we left it that way.
Wow.
Because it was a total emotional experience, the killing of Sunshine.
How long would a sequence like that take you?
Oh, I have no idea. Sometimes scenes, this one probably took me a while because it was a complicated scene and had a lot of facets to it. But there was so much footage. But,
This is multiple cameras, I'm assuming?
I'm sorry.
Multiple cameras were used on
Oh,
this?
yeah, there were multiple cameras on the scene. There were also one camera, they sent guys out from Hollywood because Arthur had done, I think he had done the thing with the Munich, had the Munich Olympics taken place then? The one where
That'd be 72,
yeah,
and this Little Big Man was 1970.
no, so it hadn't taken place yet.
Which you
What I
also,
started to say was that they sent these cameramen out from Los Angeles who had never handheld cameras before. They didn't know what to do. And so we had names for the various cameramen. One was called Search and Destroy. And another one was called Find Me If You Can. I mean, in other words, there was some terrible stuff that was shot. It wasn't like, the handheld stuff that was later done. But,
were you ever on the set?
oh
At all?
yeah, I was often on the set.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's
But
no like being on the set.
I was up in Calgary for probably about, I don't know, was it a month or so? I don't know. I don't remember how long I was, but I was up there for a while. Sometimes on the big fight scenes and, in Bonnie and Clyde, the shootout and all those things, scene when Buck gets hit, Arthur would get me out because he said he hadn't had a lot of experience with that kind of thing, and he was nervous about it. There was no reason to be nervous about anything with Arthur because it was just a matter of getting the coverage. He is a fantastic director who doesn't direct movies anymore, unfortunately. He works in the Actors Studio now.
Did Arthur Penn give you over coverage or just enough coverage?
Oh no, he must have given over coverage on this one.
On this one, they normally would give you what you needed. And would you
Arthur
discuss
was
this stuff with him on the set?
Well, if I was there at a point where we were discussing things, yes. And in a big battle scene like this, yes. We would discuss various things, but he didn't really need me there. It was just kind of gave him a little more confidence.
Let's move on to the last scene before we go to the break. And this particular movie is probably on everyone's top 10 list if you were a teenager in the 1980s. It is George Roy Hill's Slap Shot.
Oh, Slapshot. I thought you were going to say the one with the kids in it.
Oh, Breakfast Club? Not in this crowd.
In the 70s, my brother is a hockey player, and still to this day, and I think every teenager here in the 70s still thinks that the Hanson brothers are real hockey players.
Well, actually,
They probably were.
one of them was part of the real Hanson brothers, who were hockey players. But the other one wasn't. I mean, it's...
Well, those guys stole the picture, and Slapshot is just one of those great films that we
Well, that
remember
was
from our
dessert.
childhood. That was dessert. You said storytelling, performance, and good taste are the keys to a good editor. Is it especially good taste? What happens when your good taste comes up against a director's or a producer's or a studio head's bad taste?
Well, usually they don't hire me if we don't have pretty much the same taste. In other words,
You must have really good taste, because if you look at this list of films that you have done, everyone out here and hundreds of thousands and millions of other people throughout the world agree with your good taste, because these films have been seen by that many people, and that many people have liked your good taste. So why is it, why do you have
well, what I
good taste?
mean
Where
by
did you get that good
No, what
taste?
I mean by good taste is taste in performance. Mostly it's got to do with performance taste, you know. Taste and choice of takes, choice of lines. You often change a line from one take to another.
But knowing where to cut, when to cut, where to cut to, where to
Oh.
cut back.
Well, that's what we spent all
Good
those years
taste.
learning to do. You know, and it isn't just formulaic, it's formulaic, it's, with me, it's very much a matter of gut. And
Do you think that's the way with all good creative people? It's just a matter of
I think
gut?
so. I think that, I mean, how is it with writers? Certainly it's a matter of, I mean, they have to know the basics of, they have to know
But
their
writers
tools.
will, like Steve will tell you, writers will write a chapter and change it, then change it,
Of
and then
course.
change it again, and change it
Well,
again.
that's what we do in film. We write, we cut a scene, and then we change it, we change it. You know, it's,
Does Dede Allen do that? Does she cut a film that one day and have an idea that night and go back and change it, and then the next day
well,
change
of
it
course,
again?
everybody does that. I can go to the bathroom and come back. And I'll run away, you want to try it or see it. And the nice thing about the days when we got to VHSs and all was that I could manage to keep my cuts and try things out. That was the greatest thing, because it gave me a chance to experiment a little more.
Would you be able to experiment a little more with, say, digital editing, computer editing with the Avid and things like that? When
Oh,
you
of
did
course you
Wonder
can.
Boys?
Yeah, no, I didn't do that much. So I had a great assistant, Stacy Cliff, who mostly ran the machine for me, because I never really got very good on the Avid. I was more used to the feel of film, I don't know. You guys all have, what is it called, Pro Tools?
Yeah, Final Cut Pro.
Final Cut Pro,
It's kinda
which
like that.
evidently is a fantastic, Stacy tells me it's a fantastic program where you can try all these things. Well, that's a great advantage that you have the ability to do what we used to do very crudely and in a difficult way, and, you know, going through the dirty soup at night if you knew the person who would put it through for you, that kind of thing. I think it's wonderful that this generation has that ability to experiment and manipulate and think about it and go back and change it and so forth with a simple, although I hear it's kind of expensive, I don't know. Is it?
Prepared to have it.
Completely ridiculous.
What is it? To get Pro Tools. I don't know what it costs.
Pro Tools is what? I mean, you got about.
Final Cut Pro.
Oh, Final
Final
Cut
Cut
Pro.
Pro.
No, Final Cut Pro's cheap.
What is
I'll
it?
give you a free copy. What is Final Cut now? It keeps going down. It's like Final Cut Studio is $9.99 or $12.99.
Studio's $12.99.
Yeah, but you have to buy Studio because you can't buy Final Cut Pro anymore. So you have to buy Final Cut Studio, which is,
Oh, in other words, you can't get Final Cut?
no, you can't get Final Cut.
And
It's a
yet-
bundle with other.
You have,
Can't get
it's
owned.
bundled along with the sound editing program, a graphics editing program, and a DVD authoring program.
So they charge more.
Well, actually, it's the same price as they did 4 years ago. So you're getting more for your money now. So, you can do everything.
Well, that's
You can do
fantastic.
Star Wars now on your desktop computer.
I don't know if I want to do Star Wars.
Question of taste.
I think it's great, but what I love about the Star Wars type movies is that they add the big screen, the big expanse to create on.
Oh.
I mean, if they had the money, the way George finally had. Lucas.
You still love movies?
Oh, of course I do. I stay up every night late. He goes crazy. And I sleep late in the morning and sometimes into the early afternoon because I stay up every night and look at movies. I'm still a total movie buff. I haven't changed since I was 13 years old or whatever it was when I started.
And can you lose yourself in movies, or do you watch them as a lot of creative people do?
No, I watch them as a movie. I don't look at cuts, if that's what you mean. Last night, I think I fell asleep on, I know one I've seen many, many times because it's a good, what was the one I fell asleep on? He wouldn't know because he was in. No, it's one I've seen so many times. You said to me, what? Goodfellas. My son is a re-recording mixer. His name's Tom Fleischman, and he works out in New York. And he was a re-recording mixer on Goodfellas. He does all of Marty's pictures and so forth. So some of it just came naturally when you grow up with it. You end up having it in your blood, I guess. My daughter's not involved with that. She does other things. But my son definitely went right into the business and sound.
All right, before we go to the break, I want to leave you all with this quote from Dede Allen. Go to as much theater as you can and learn story and scene. Acquire knowledge, taste, and a sense of social history. Follow your instincts and love what you do. Learn your tools and scream as much as you can. You can't break the rules until you know the rules.